Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is the rule of winter. Nirvana. Everyone was shocked and immediately understood. It turned out that the rotation of the 4 seasons in the outside world had already crossed the winter solstice, and this space was beginning to shatter under the power of Nirvana. Qing's face turned pale, and it said unwillingly, could it be that even the sealed space can't block the law of winter of the unaging mountain, and we're destined to die? Noah's ship's power seems to have been sealed, Li said with a serious expression. That's why the space is unstable. If we can open a territory with a sacred artifact, we should be able to avoid this disaster. She turned her eyes to Yunxiao, the meaning in her eyes self-evident. Shua shua shua. Everyone's eyes turned to the purple cauldron beside him. Yunxiao's face flickered slightly. He patted the cauldron of mountain and river and put it away, then said lazily, although this profound level weapon of mine is somewhat profound, it's definitely not some saint weapon you guys are talking about, let alone be able to contend against the throne, the unaging mountain. Li Yunxiao, Qing said with a gloomy face, we're all going to die if we don't work together at this time. Yunxiao's eyes shone with a cold light as he looked at Qingzhu and said with a sneer, united? My friend is about to be played to death by you, and you still want to talk about working together with me? If I had the strength now, the first thing I would do would be to slap you to death. Little Qing's face turned white, it turned around and looked at Feng Yi and Yi Fan. The power of the 5 elements had already penetrated deep into the golden light and was about to pierce into the top of his head. With a crazed look on his face, he turned to look at little Qing and Yunxiao and said in a cold voice. At this time, Noah's ship will soon be mine. No one can save him. Feng Yi's face was ferocious, and the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens around him was getting stronger and stronger. He had completely recovered his peak power, and now everyone's life was in his hands. No one could resist him. He turned around and suddenly trembled. The power of the 5 elements St. Claude scattered due to the violent tremble, as if it was being shaken out by the golden light. Feng Yi's eyes widened in shock as he stared at Yi Fan. He felt his body turn cold, as if he was even colder than the winter destructive force. Yi Fan's eyes had opened, he was staring at him expressionlessly. His eyes were as deep as the ocean, devoid of any human emotions. It was as if he was born naturally and eternity would be there. In his eyes, there was actually a silver river that was decorated with stars. You. Feng Yi felt a huge chill in his heart. Although he couldn't sense the slightest power from the other party, just those eyes made him tremble all over, and he couldn't help but feel like kneeling down and worshipping. How could it be like this? I'm a martial sovereign of the 9 heavens, and my sovereign Qi can suppress all forces. Why is there such a terrifying tremor? Feng Yi's heart grew colder and colder, and his body trembled extremely badly. His 5 fingers had long been taken out of the golden light and stopped in the air. He did not know how to withdraw them, but his forehead was already covered in cold sweat. He desperately circulated his Emperor Qi, but no matter what, he could not drive away the chill in his heart. Yi Fan still stood there quietly, not moving at all, but the golden light around him gradually dimmed and gathered towards the crystal in front of his chest. The shape of Noah's ship became clearer and clearer. This sudden change caused everyone's hearts to tighten. They were all gathering their strength, waiting for changes to appear so that they could seize the opportunity. But now, it seemed that there was no hope. Looking at Feng Yi, it seemed that it was going to be finished. And an even greater danger had already appeared in front of them, and that was the nirvana of winter of the unaging mountain. It had already seeped into the sealed space, and could collapse at any time. Boom boom boom. The more one was worried about something, the faster it would come. Just as everyone's mind was about to move, a black space suddenly shattered as if it had been hit by a hammer a few times. It turned into tiny black fragments that continuously shattered and dissipated. A pure white world appeared in front of everyone. The world was as bright as day. All living things were destroyed and everything returned to the void. The throne, the ageless mountain, appeared in front of everyone, emitting an extreme white light. It was like a rolling heavenly might that pressed down on everyone's heart. Everyone's face turned pale, and they couldn't breathe. A. Two more screams were heard. The martial emperor disciples of the Hall of Holy Fire could not withstand the power of quietus. The two of them were turned into dust crystals without even being frozen. Tao Can's eyes were red. Starting from Feng Zhu, 4 people had died, leaving only him and Qi Guang. They were also struggling and could be destroyed at any time. The Temple of Holy Fire had been passed down for thousands of years and was gradually declining. They might be completely annihilated today. Young master, young master. He cried out in agony. If you don't wake up, everyone will leave you. We're not afraid of death, but we're afraid that we won't be able to see the day when the Temple of Holy Fire regains its glory. Tao Can was mentally and physically exhausted. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned extremely pale. He could no longer resist the power of nirvana. Suddenly, a force surged to his side. Qi Guang held a treasured saber in his hand and helped him create a defense. He struggled to hold on and gritted his teeth. Tao Can, you can't die. The young master still needs your help. If you want to die, it should be me, this old man, who should die first. Elder Qi, I'm afraid I can't hold on any longer. So what if I can hold on for a little longer? Don't waste your energy. You're the only martial supreme in the sacred fire hall now. Elder Qi, please hold back your power. He slapped the treasured saber with his palm in an attempt to shake it off. He did not want Qi Guang to waste his energy in order to protect himself. Qi Guang was furious and shouted, "Don't mess around. You can't fall no matter what." The qi in his hand sank and pushed away the power of the jar's palm. He refused to let go of his defense no matter what. He will never fall. A silent voice suddenly rang out, as if it came from an extremely distant place. It was so unreal, but it was also extremely solemn and sacred. It gave people endless power, giving birth to warmth and an infinite hope for survival in their hearts. You're the young master. Qi Guang was shocked to see that Yi Fan had already woken up and seemed to have regained consciousness. He formed a symbol in the air with one hand and landed on the two of them. That symbol was none other than a golden tadpole-like character. It landed in the middle of Qi Guang and Yi Fan and emitted a golden light, repelling the surrounding winter rule force and forming a small piece of its own world. Everyone looked at each other in shock. At this moment, they could not see through Yi Fan at all. Not only could they not see through his power, even his expression and gaze seemed to be drifting. No matter how they looked, they could not see his true appearance. Whoosh! Qing instantly turned into a bolt of lightning and charged into the golden light as fast as it could. It immediately felt warm, and the coldness of winter was no longer present. He heaved a sigh of relief, but he only dared to stand at the edge of the golden light. He looked at Yi Fan warily, revealing a deep fear. Young master, you're too weak. Tao Can was also overjoyed, looking at Yi Fan's transformation, that feeling of being unable to look up to him. He was so excited that tears flowed down his face, but Yi Fan was very calm at this moment. He did not have any emotions, other than deep thoughts in his eyes. There was also a trace of confusion. He just muttered to himself, the edicts of winter. Nirvana? He is not Yi Fan. Suddenly, a voice rang out as Yunxiao rushed into the golden light and hid himself. His eyes were filled with deep shock, as if he could not believe it. Yi Fan turned his head slightly and gave him a rare smile. Then, he nodded at Yunxiao, strode out of the golden light, and stepped into the destructive power. As soon as he walked out of the golden circle of light, whooshing sounds could be heard in the air. Everyone instantly flew over and poured into the shelter, which was not big to begin with. It suddenly became crowded, and even Feng Yi rushed in. Qi Guanghe stared at him with hatred in his eyes. Feng Yi's expression changed slightly. He silently stood at the edge of the golden light and secretly regulated his origin power. Sheng, on the other hand, looked at the golden tadpole between Tao Can and Qi Guang with a serious gaze, not saying a word. Yunxiao was also shocked. The golden tadpole-like character exuded a unique power of rules, which could actually compete with the rule of earth. Yi Fan had casually formed this character. It showed that he had a complete grasp of these characters. Boom boom boom. heaven and earth suddenly trembled, and the golden light was hit by a huge force. It became dazed, and Feng Yi's face changed greatly. He hurriedly ran from the edge to the center. The entire enchantment was reduced to nothingness, leaving only this small golden world. The powerful destructive power continued to compress over, and the golden light became smaller and smaller. The unaging mountain seemed to have sensed the unique power of the golden light, and it began to change gradually. Its heaven-reaching power kept collapsing, and in a few breaths, it had become a miniature mountain that exuded extremely powerful nomological power in the air. A powerful white territory came out from it, flying in their direction and fiercely crashing down. A shadow loomed over everyone's heart as they felt the destructive rule force and mystic artifact territory. All of their faces turned pale and they were terrified. What a powerful force! Are these the experts of this era? Yi Fan mumbled to himself, his eyes serious. He stepped above the golden circle of light and made seals with his hands. The crystal in front of his chest projected an image in the air, which slowly turned into a small boat. After making a seal, it flew into Yi Fan's hands. He slowly opened his palms, and the small golden boat changed with it. It shot out rays of golden light that turned his body into a golden ocean. The small boat suddenly became bigger in his hands, and it crashed toward the unaging mountain. Boom, boom, boom. The world turned into two poles, one gold and one white. The white world pressed down fiercely, and a black crack appeared in the vacuum between the two colors. The stars in the crack turned into a galaxy. There was no one in charge of the unaging mountain. It only operated automatically according to the program that Teng Guang had set up in the past. It absorbed the power of the Four Seasons enchantment formed by the ancient evergreen tree and the pressure of its own profound level weapon to condense the strongest law of the earth nirvana, crush all things, and return everything to the void. Yi Fan's hands continued to form seals, sending them into the small boat, forcefully resisting the pressure of the unaging mountain. It seemed like he was having a hard time. The people in the golden circle of light below were shocked beyond words. They would die the moment they touched the destructive power, let alone resist it. Everyone held their breath as they felt the collision of the worlds in the sky. They were like a withered leaf in the wind and rain, ready to collapse at any time. This won't do. This power is too strong. It's already at the peak of the laws. If I don't use all my spiritual will, I won't be able to withstand it. A trace of hesitation flashed across Yi Fan's face, but he made up his mind. He put his hands together and a weird seal changed in his hands, creating many golden tadpole-like characters that flew into the golden boat. It was as if time and space were passing by rapidly, passing through thousands of rocks, creating waves that crossed the other shore. At this moment, the unaging mountain was enveloped by thousands of golden lights. It let out a rumbling sound and was forced to retreat. The galaxy between the two worlds disappeared in an instant, and thousands of rays of light shot into the sky. The silent winter disintegrated at this moment, and the golden light covered the earth. The power of the unaging mountain was greatly reduced. It forcibly broke through the space and tried to escape. Yi Fan frowned. He wanted to block it, but his pupils suddenly opened. There was a dazed look in his eyes. The power around his body started to weaken. It was about to disappear. He suddenly shook his head, revealed a serious expression, and muttered to himself, "There's no time." He then pointed with his hand and the small golden boat flew into the seal on his chest. He put his hands together in the air and sat down cross-legged, entering a meditative state as if no one was around. The golden light in the surroundings gradually disappeared as he entered a meditative state, and only a huge crack appeared in the sky. The unaging mountain had long since disappeared, and the entire sky began to shine and change. With the disappearance of the unaging mountain, the entire enchantment was instantly shattered. All the illusions disappeared one by one. In the original Four Seasons space, a powerful life force spread out, turning the surroundings into a green color. In a radius of several li, countless branches and leaves appeared, as if they had directly drilled out of another space. Sheng looked at the changes around him and his heart skipped a beat. He was ecstatic. The ancient evergreen tree. This dense forest of leaves and branches was actually Little Qing's main body. It stretched out for several li, and its height reached the clouds. Qing's expression became quite unsightly. With its true body here, there were as many experts as there were clouds, and it was not confident that it could protect the young man.